it's good for you to know what's going on, and there's a lot of exciting things going on. And glad to be here at this time again. I mean, I enjoyed all my years here as a student, but glad to be part of the university at this time. Prestige, I think, of my degree has increased since the 1970s with so much we had to offer, but it was a great community and it still remains a great place to work. So again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in person next year. We have not liked this virtual too much, but it is a way to get together. So I'm glad you joined us. Thanks so much.
Okay, well, I guess I'm next. I'm Dr. Robin Wilson, and I came to school at LMU in '77, just like Dr. Hess. He and I actually were classmates because we were both working on a business degree. The best I remember, that's been a while. And I graduated in '79, and then after I got married and had kids, I decided to go back to school, and I wanted to become a nurse. And so I came back to LMU in '93 and got an associate degree in nursing. And I've just continued my education. I have an EDS, education specialist degree from LMU in about 2000 and I'm not sure, 7, I think. But anyway, I have loved being a part of LMU's family. I have 3 daughters. All of them have graduated from LMU. And my kids, I always loved like the safety and the family aspect. Like Cindy mentioned, years ago, and like Dr. Hess mentioned, it was smaller. And my kids, I would throw their bikes in the back of my car when I came to work if they were out of school, or if I was when I was in the nursing program. I'd make them sandwiches and they would ride the campus and climb the mountains and eat sandwiches. And, they were so safe. It was just nothing I ever had to worry about. And now we know LMU a year or two ago received that designation as the safest campus in the country. So, we know that that's such a great thing to be. I am a nurse, and I've taught in the nursing program here at LMU this is my 22nd year. I'm one of the I hate to say one of the older faculty, but I'm one of the older faculty. And I love seeing the changes that we've made from 1977 when I came in as a freshman, and I was a Delta. I was one of the sororities, Delta Theta Sigma. Through growing up, I grew up as the university really grew up and became a nurse in the '90s and continued that education, and now have a doctorate. And I get to teach in the ASN and the BSN and the RN to BSN nursing programs at LMU. And probably nursing, somebody could tell me for sure, but it's probably one of the largest undergraduate programs we have at LMU. And I feel like it's so important to fulfill toward fulfilling our mission, because everybody knows how important healthcare is, especially now in this period of COVID and everything. It is so vital that we turn out good and safe nurses. We have extremely high pass rates. We were just able to calculate, I think, our BSN pass rate. We just got our last scores for this past graduating group, and I believe it was 97.2%, which is extremely high. I don't know our ASN rate yet. I think we have a few that haven't graduated or haven't passed boards yet, haven't taken it. But other schools are lucky to get into the upper 80s or the 90s, and we always have really high pass rates. We have really great programs in nursing at LMU. So I'm glad to be here and talk about that. And if you guys have family members or grandkids or anybody that's interested in nursing, we would love to talk to them about that.
Robin, thank you so much. Appreciate your long tenure, and we've worked together on many committees, and you all always have something good to say. We appreciate you. Kay, you're up to bat there. Kay, we can't hear you. Kay.
That do it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm Dr. Kay Paris, and I'm the social worker here. I'm teaching in the social work program, serving as the chair and program director, which means I get involved with accreditation quite a bit. And I've been here 33 years, so I've beaten out Robin. No, did I beat out Robin? Yeah, possibly I did. But I've been here long enough to know that, should I say this, Clayton? Clayton, you were one of my students once. Yes, and he survived, so that's a very good thing. We have a fairly small program, so if there's anybody that you know who's interested in social work and helping people in the Appalachian communities, if you'll let us know, we'll take good care of them and make sure that they learn how to provide services for the people in Appalachia. Our latest, I guess we could call it coup, is that one of our 2020 graduates and one of our 2012 graduates have just secured the CARES Act grant for this area. And that's $1.4 million to be distributed before November the 14th to people who are back, who have back rent, back mortgages, and back utilities, so that they're able to continue surviving in this weird world that we have now. And like I say, if you know someone who wants to maybe write grants and help people, if they want to provide direct services, if they want to make sure that children's welfare is taken care of, that welfare of elders is taken care of, let us know. We're a growing field. All of our students get jobs. And yeah, I know people think that they don't make very much money, but at least the salaries have been adjusted. And I don't know whether to say fortunately or unfortunately, social workers are actually making more than teachers now, which has been something that's very recent. So thank you so much. And I've known a lot of interesting people here and have had a lot of very interesting students over the years. And I have to tell you, I'm proud of every one of our graduates because they are doing stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Kay. Appreciate it. I don't see Joan Efi on the Zoom, so, but even still, when I added up all the years that were just talked about, I came up with 151 years. And that's just 4 people. That's yeah, quite a lot of years of experience. So with that, Dr. Hess, if you want to tell us a little bit about your vision and where we are, we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. You know, as I was hearing a couple of the introductions and talking about being on the faculty, I think we all have fond memories of some of the wonderful faculty members that have been at LMU over the many years that the university has been here. I think also that leads me into speaking about where we're at now. Back when I was at LMU, we were under 1,000 students. And this fall, we are just under 5,000. We were at 4,885, I believe. And then we have added another class of PA students. The part of the institution I do want to mention is our academy, which I believe started in '89. It's was a private high school. Now it's a private K through 12 on our campus. And it is right now, I believe, at 195 students. So it's a real addition to this institution. I mentioned that since we're growing at lots of different levels. When I was here, we were strictly an undergraduate institution. And as Dr. Paris mentioned, I did take some graduate courses under Kay at one time. So it has grown tremendously over the years. Whatever period of time you were here, I know that you'll remember good academic programs and good faculty. The programs are growing very quickly. All of you are probably aware that we have entered into the doctoral education program, Doctor of Business Administration, and Robin mentioned our size of our nursing program. The undergraduate nursing program here, Robin, is the largest undergraduate program. And with nursing now, we go through advanced practice areas in nursing to include nurse anesthetist, family nurse practitioner, psychiatric mental health nursing, all the way through the Doctor of Nursing practice. Our expansion from nursing, that kind of kicked us off into a real growth in the health sciences. And I'm sure that many of you, or if not all, are aware of the Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine degree, which came on, I believe, in 2008. the growth since that time has just been phenomenal. And we have expanded into so many different areas. This was our second fall, I believe, of a new osteopathic medical program in Knoxville, which is a program which will continue to grow for at least another 2 years. We started with an additional 125 medical students last fall. We went to 150 this fall. We'll go to 175 and then 200 in the next two academic fall semesters. This fall, we also opened at Knoxville a new physician assistant program. LMU has the largest medical school in the state, and we also have the largest physician assistant program. Here at Harrogate, we take 96, and we started 60 students into the physician assistant program for this fall in Knoxville. And that program will have a specialty in surgery, which is a very unique type program within that discipline. We also are growing into the future. I didn't mention several of our programs, but I'm sure that you probably are already aware. We are one of only about 30 universities in the country to have a veterinary medical school, which is doing very well. We're up to 125 students for each class in veterinary medicine, and of course, other areas that have grown so rapidly. Next fall, going into the future, and it is part of our plan to have planned growth into areas that are necessary to meet our mission, which is to provide for the needs of our area. But next fall, we plan to open 2 doctoral level programs in Knoxville, and that will be the physical therapy and occupational therapy. They are well on their way toward opening, and both have, at this point, are on the cycle for approval for those students to enter a program that's fully approved. And we're really looking forward to that. We have other things on the horizon. I don't want to be too speculative because these things take a great deal of time and development, and they don't always go exactly as we had planned. If you remember, we opened a law school which struggled in the beginning. Actually, we opened well, and when we got into the accreditation phase, we had some setbacks. But our law school now is recognized as an exceptionally good institution. In fact, has been recognized by the Jurist magazine as the school that has made the most progress in terms of students entering credentials and their pass rates on the bar exam. This past exam, not counting the one that they just took earlier this month that won't be out until December, but before that, we had the highest pass rate in the state for our bar exam. We were so proud of those students, but we're looking forward within 2 years of trying to go into optometry and dentistry. So those are some of the programs that are on the horizon. There's a lot of growth at LMU. And when I mentioned the new school in Knoxville, if you've had a chance to see it, I hope you will be able to. It's on the Pellissippi Parkway, and it is a beautiful building. We're still in renovation there for physical therapy and occupational therapy, which, as I mentioned, are next fall. Also, if you're from this area or have been to Knoxville, you may remember the Knoxville St. Mary's Tower. LMU was able to buy the tower. It is currently under renovation and will provide us with about 200,000 square feet in which to offer the medical dentistry program and the optometry program. In addition, Robin, to moving our nursing program, which was relocated a couple of years ago from the tower back over to St. Mary's, old St. Mary's location. We're naming it the LMU Tower, and we're looking forward to that opening. There's been a lot of growth in other areas as the demographics of our area change and things opportunities present themselves, LMU is always eager to seek out and to develop areas where there is opportunity for the students of Appalachian. We're looking forward to a new program coming next fall that has never existed here and is unique for most areas of the country. We are looking at an opportunity to identify gifted students throughout the Appalachian region and to guarantee them with some conditions that if they come here as freshmen, meet all of the sort of benchmarks along the way, they will have secured a location or a seat in one of our professional programs. How significant is that? For the medical school that I talked about, where we take about 240 on campus, and next fall we'll take, I believe, 175 in Knoxville, we receive over 6,000 qualified applicants, close actually to 7,000 each year. And this will guarantee those students, if they meet the benchmarks along the way and go through the program here at LMU, a seat in that class. So it's so unique for our students in veterinary medicine, osteopathic medicine, all of the professional areas, that we're looking forward to that. I know we've sounded a bit like we're pushing our programs, but what we're really expressing, I think, to you is something that you already feel. And that is pride in this institution and pride in the quality of the programs that we offer and the opportunities that they present for the students, not only of this region, but now across the country. Our status has changed as far as rankings, and I know that we have bragged a lot about these, probably too much, because rankings are only as good as those who are doing them. But we have moved into what is called the national university status. And we're so happy that this year we moved up significantly within that ranking system for U.S. News and World Report. We had reached the top level of a Southern regional university prior to changing into categories. And we're proud of that. But what I want to stress to you is that this is the institution that you will remember. One of the things that has stuck with me about LMU is that it's always been a place where students could find themselves and could be comfortable. And I think we continue to do that today. And so I hope that you will remember this institution fondly going forward. And it still has, I think, some of the characteristics that it did when I was a freshman here. There are faculty who take tremendous interest in our students and their success. And I think that's one of the reasons that we continue to climb in rankings, and we continue to have opportunities to have some of these new programs. My vision for the future of LMU is a shared vision. It is, I think, the vision of all of our board of trustees and many of our members of our community, as well as all of our faculty and staff, and that is to continue to offer a good educational experience to students who may not have the means financially or otherwise, which is something that Cindy mentioned earlier. We're always seeking ways to help our students go here and be successful. But for the future, we want to continue the tradition that LMU has had, and that is being a place where students could come and apply themselves and be successful, and then leave here feeling like they're part of something that is meaningful and that changes lives. And so that's kind of where I see where we're at and where we're going into the future.
Thank you, Dr. Hess. Let me, before we go forward, Natalie Sweet, the coordinator of, one of the coordinators at the Abraham Lincoln Library Museum. Can you just give us a quick, I want to thank you, by the way, for being our technical person here. Without you, I would have chatted myself into on the floor somewhere, I'm sure. But would you give us a little bit of an update of the library and where things are there, the Abraham Lincoln Library Museum?
Certainly. As Dr. Sedler said, my name's Natalie Sweet. I'm the Program and Education Coordinator at the museum. And as you've probably known, in the past year, we have been closed for a significant renovation project. In fact, a $3.6 million renovation. So exciting things are coming to our museum. And last night we gave a preview of what's coming to the museum. So after we leave here, if you'd like to take a look at some of the things that are going on inside the museum, I encourage you to go to our Facebook page where we have that footage up so you can take a look around inside. But what we've actually done is we've made some significant physical changes to the building. You'll notice as the next time you come that there's a sloped roof, which will give us obviously better protection against the elements. We have a beautiful marble slab featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front of our building. And this is one of the things I think I'm proudest of. It's such a beautiful piece of artwork. It's taken from Abraham Lincoln's 1863 November portrait that he sat for just before the Gettysburg Address. And the Gettysburg Address appears etched behind Abraham Lincoln. And this piece of artwork was actually begun in Finland using a new technique in art. So we're like a showcase piece for this particular art company that has designed the piece for us. Inside, things are even better. We have a 35,000 piece collection at the museum. And that is a significant size. It's the third largest private Lincoln collection in the entire world. So you can actually see more things related to Abraham Lincoln's life anywhere outside of Springfield or Washington, D.C. So we're very lucky to have this collection. And we're fortunate to have it in part because of the many scholars who came before us, like Dr. Ncaa, a previous LMU president. And we want to be able to share the items that we have in our collection with many more people, but because of the size of the museum and the need for updates, we hadn't been really able to have everything safely out so more of the public could enjoy it. Well, with the expansion of the museum, we have added on 2 new wings that are going to include 2 new galleries for the museum. We're going to be able to get some more delicate things out on the floor so that individuals can enjoy them. And instead of just being able to see it once a year when we open up our vaults for Abraham Lincoln's birthday, we want the opportunity to rotate those items more frequently. We're also adding a children's learning lab that's being funded by the Daughters of the Union. It's going to be a place where our youngest visitors can connect with the past and get some hands-on experiences through play and science and crafts. We're very excited about that and what it means for our school groups. And of course, too, we previewed this last year, but due to COVID, we've not been able to start using our Pioneer Village yet, but that is coming in the future too. We are hopefully looking towards the spring with hopefully there will be a vaccine and we'll be able to do more public activities. But we do have big things planned once we are able to reopen and for our opening day as well. The physical updates to the building are almost complete, which means we're now entering into our next phase of actually installing the exhibits inside of the museum. So we are speeding there just as fast as we can, and barring everything with COVID-19, hopefully we'll be bringing people through the doors soon.
Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate that. Someone asked me the other day if we're going to be renting out those cabins in the Pioneer Village for like summer rentals, or I said I don't think so. Cindy Witt, is that not going to happen? Or
Cindy, you're muted.
I don't think so. We'll talk to the chairman about that, won't we, Dr. Hess? But I really don't think we're going to rent those out. And I've been in them with some of the other museum folks, and they're a little bit sparse, and you'd be sleeping on dirt or wood. So wouldn't be too much fun.
I'll report that back to the faculty for sure. I have a question that I wanted to pose to all of you. I want you to think about, panelists, I want you to think about a person, unforgettable character, let's say, character being the operational word there, an unforgettable person that you recall, and how that person had an impact on you, good, bad, or otherwise, here at LMU, somebody who impacted your life here, your thinking about LMU, or the university itself, and you respected it, however you want to look at it, or it could be a funny story about somebody. Who would that be? Who would that character be? And what would you say about that person? I'm going to start with Kay Paris, and we'll go backwards this time. And don't forget to unmute.
I unmuted. Okay. I actually thought about two people who did make an impact on me many, many moons ago. We were working on accreditation, and we are now. In fact, today I'm working on accreditation. But we were at the situation back in, I think it was 97, 98, in that time frame. And at that point, that was before Dr. Martin Peters became president of the university. And he actually was located in the building that we were in, and we would stay up really late and work as long as we could until we could keep our eyes open. And Dr. Peters, because he left a little late also, when he was leaving, he would come and check on us to make sure that we were doing okay and that we had food. And I think there were a couple of times he brought us donuts or cookies and things like that. But he stopped almost every night if he knew we were working. So that was really a nice feel that somebody was checking on us at least. The other person who showed up on a dark and stormy night was Art Brill, who was one of the trustees, and he was helping in the president's office for a while. I think that was that in 98. I'm hoping Clayton remembers the dates. Okay. But Art Brill also would come and check on us. And at one point he came in, it was really kind of funny because there were actually 4 of us in a very tiny room working. It was our work study student, our graduate assistant, and our former faculty member, Rebecca Patterson. We were all in this tiny little room. We had 2 tables in there. We had papers all over the place. And he kind of snuck up on us a little bit and startled us because we didn't know somebody else was in the building. But he also was offering, okay, now, did y'all get food? He was very concerned about, how we were doing working on this gargantuan task. So that was kind of one of those warm stories that you kind of remember. And we have had many other accreditation documents since then. And I'm not sure anybody snuck up on us, though, during those times. But you just never know. I'm in my office today, and I'm going to shut the door so nobody gets a chance to sneak up on me today.
Well, it won't be me. I'm closed in.
I know you're here. Yeah. Okay.
Can't sneak up on me. Robin, what about you? You have somebody unforgettable character?
Well, I have to say that from when I first came to LMU in 1977, I was a business degree student. And my advisor was a guy named Roy Floyd. So anybody, I see Dr. Hess smiling, anybody that was a business student at LMU back in the 70s, they will definitely remember Roy Floyd. He was gruff and he was sarcastically funny. Back in the 70s, you could smoke in class, and he always had that little cigarette in that hand. And I don't think that I necessarily ever passed a test in his class, but I always passed the class. So I'm not really sure how all that worked out, but he was tough, and he liked being known to being so tough. And I think he gave us lots of points back because I think he knew that he made the test a little tougher on purpose, just to let us all know who was boss. It's really funny because he was my advisor, and I was scared to death of him. And so I would go and stand in line, to get my schedule worked out. And then they would send you had to go up on the hill and go through the registrar's office. And of course they would say, no, 3 of those classes are full now. So then you went back and got in line again with Dr. Floyd or with Mr. Floyd, and you would go back and forth all day long. And each time he would get funnier about the whole process. But I ran into him in Kroger's. I don't know if it was like about 10 or 15 years ago. and he was elderly, and he told me he had a lot of nice things to say, and what a good student I was in his class, and how proud he was of me that I'd went on and went to nursing school, and it's like I didn't even know that he knew that about me, and it's kind of funny because I was scared to death of him, but he had a high opinion of me and made me feel really good about myself when I saw him, all those years later.
That's a great story. Thank you, Robin. Cindy.
Right. When you posed the question to us, I had many people that came to mind. I mean, many people. So I'm thinking, I'm going to narrow this down, so I'll try to do this quickly. I remember people in the past, and I know some of you remember Jane Lott's speech. I wasn't a student when she was a faculty member here, but I met her after I came to work at LMU, and she was an amazing woman. I think she worked 6 or 7 decades here at LMU. I'm not sure, but she was a great history person. And I remember her jumping up in the chair one time like she had a sword in her hand and talking about some battle in history. So she was an amazing faculty member, and I remember so many of those. Miss Pangle, who was a house mother here at one time. I met all these people after I came to LMU, but while I was a student here, it was Mabel Smith, Dr. Mabel Smith, who was very impactful in my life and the lives of other music and theater students here. And she just built such confidence in us that we felt like we could do anything, and that we had so many plays, so many musicals that we did. And she even took us to Brushy Mountain to perform one time, which my parents just had a fit about that. But anyway, that was another interesting story I should tell sometime. But other people that many of you know, Jim McCune, who was a wonderful man that worked for the university for many years. We certainly miss Jim and when he passed. But if there was ever a faithful, dedicated servant to the university, that was Jim McCune. And I think many of you will remember that. But he was just a fantastic guy, always there to have a listening ear, always friendly. We really do miss Jim, but he was another great guy. And I think I'll tell this quick story about Dr. Moody, Dr. Nancy Moody. Some of you all knew her as our former president. Well, she and I were on a development trip, and we'd gotten back, flights delayed. We were in Nashville. We had to fly to Florida for a funeral, I think. And then we came back, and we didn't get into Knoxville until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we were driving back home. We decided we're going to make it home. So we did. We were driving. It was late. We were kind of getting a little bit giddy. Dr. Moody wasn't given. She was, a firm leader. But anyway, this was a fun night. She was driving. I have to say, she was the one that was driving. She was speeding. We were going through Tazewell. We were singing a country song called I Hope You Dance, if you remember that song. Anyway, we were singing that song going down the road, but the blue lights appeared, You say a bright light appeared. Well, it was the blue lights that night, and we were pulled over. So I guess they thought something was wrong because the car was probably rocking just a little bit and definitely going too fast. But pulled over. One officer went to her side of the car. Another officer went to my side of the car. So remember that funny exchange. We got out of it. They let us go without a ticket, which was fantastic. But the reason we got out of it was because another lifelong person here at the university, Phil Greer, we finally told the police officers that we knew Phil Greer. And would that help us any? And actually it did. So they didn't write us a ticket. But I could go on hour after hour about the personalities of the university, people I've met through the year, especially Martin Peters was another, Dr. Jerry Bishop. I mean, so many that it's just been a pleasure to know these people through the years and different faculty and the alumni and friends. But thanks for letting me share. I know I probably went over a little bit longer, but honestly, this has been the best job. I told Sheila Cosby, I said, alumni services, that is the best job anybody could have. And so she's got the best job, right, Sheila?
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, we have so many friends, but thank you for letting me share those stories.
Oh, those are great stories, Cindy. And when you mentioned Phil Greer, he was a very colorful person, as you know.
Yes.
And in politics in Tazewell.
Oh, absolutely.
About politics, and he would name names, and oh boy, he was impossible to get beyond in the cafeteria without him grabbing a hold and telling me about the politics of New Tazewell.
Yes.
What a nice person he was. I really appreciated him. Dr. Hess, What would you say? A colorful person, somebody memorable that just expanded you, and what would you say about that?
There are so many, but I do want to mention just a couple that I remember especially as being sort of inspirational and just people that you looked up to. I don't know if any of you will remember it, but Luella Watson taught here for many, many years. Miss Watson would come to work very early, and she would be extremely dedicated. And I do remember one incident where a person was not particularly kind to her, and we visited with him outside of class to let him know that she put a tremendous amount of effort and into what she was doing, and she cared tremendously about her. And we convinced him that he might ought to be a little more respectful toward Miss Watson. I remember one time when a classmate of mine was having some trouble at home. He was also my roommate at the time. And she asked where he was. And this was one evening in a night class. We called it night class, late evening. And so I couldn't wait but to tell her. And she said she would return. And so we watched her leave Avery Hall, go down over the hill toward our dorm. At the time, we lived in West Hall. And she returned with my roommate, who probably would have failed out of class without her. And he now is a lawyer and judge in Florida. So I think that was pretty inspirational. Just to mention a couple of others, I remember Charles Blakeman, who taught history here. I was always astounded at how intelligent the man was. I was in class one time and he was quoting from a book, and I noticed that it was closed and laying on his desk. And he quoted quite a long quote from the book, but so many others. Cindy mentioned Jerry Bishop. I have never known a more dedicated, honest, and hardworking person who cared as much about the institution than Dr. Jerry Bishop did. Even to the point when he was physically unable to be here, he continued to support the school and to try and help the students. Another person is Dr. Como, Dr. Chuck Como, who you may or may not know. He was here for several years and actually started LMU's first graduate program in education in about '85. So those are just some of the people that I remember. Cindy, I do remember Jim and some of the folks like that. Going all the way back to very, very early on, I don't know if any of you knew Dr. Del Pan, but Dr. Del Pan used to shake his cane at us, campus center, and then behind that gesture was a very kind soul. But I do remember some of those people as being very inspirational.
Thank you, Dr. Hess. These are great names. Jerry Bishop's name, of course, he was not here when I got here, when I came in 2003, but many of the faculty who've been here a long time would say that he was one of the most nicest people, kindest people that they had ever met. We do have a question on chat, do we not, Natalie?
We do. Wanda Morgan asks, with the addition of wrestling and field hockey for both men and women's teams, are we looking at moving to NCAA Division I competition?
I guess, Dr. Hess, that's you.
I don't see any way other than to answer that question. Not immediately, no. We do have a plan to grow the undergraduate enrollment, and that's one of the necessities if we were to make that move. Right now, in some sports, we're very highly ranked at D2, and right now we're continuing in D2. We have looked at Division I in the past and continue to keep an eye open toward that, but it probably will be sometime into the future. The school is a little more dedicated right now to growing its academic programs. Those new sports programs, I think, are really essential here. I don't know, those of you who have been here during some of the later years, the sports programs have become very, very central to student life at LMU. and a number of our students enjoy going to sporting events. We have a lot of residential students who participate in sports. And we are going to be expanding into women's field hockey and men's and women's wrestling. And we're looking at the potential of other sports down the road. And that's to sort of fill out opportunities here for students and attract students from different areas to come and be a part of our academic community. There is a good chance that LMU at some point in the future will look at the possibility of Division I. We continue to keep an eye on it and to see where we're going with that. And so it could happen, but not in the immediate future.
Thank you, Dr. Hess. I do have another question I want to pose to the panel, and that is, and some of you have already kind of edged into this. I'd like to know, or we'd like to know about a student that stands out in your mind for one reason or another, either if you're a faculty, someone maybe in your classes, or someone who went through your program, or a scholarship recipient, or in the case of Dr. Hess, came to appeal to you to not be thrown out of school. I hope that wasn't the case, but we've had some very interesting, and I see Jake Carver over there. He'd probably somebody I would tell a story or two about, but what about a student story? Again, let's, Kay Paris, you want to start with you?
I keep hitting it and it doesn't hit right.
That's all right.
Okay, one of our students who graduated back in about 80, no, she was in the 90s, the late 90s. I can't tell you the year, but she went on and got her master's in social work at the University of Kentucky, was chosen that year as the outstanding social work student for the University of Kentucky's School of Social Work. So we're very, very proud of her. She's currently the operational vice president for KCEOC, which is a community action agency in Pineville, and they serve most of southeastern Kentucky. And she is just an astounding person. She has been an advisory council member. She's been a guest speaker. I think at one point she came and taught one of the classes for us. So she has been a tremendous support for the social work program, and we are very, very proud of her.
And do you have her name, Kay?
Yes, it's Jennifer Smith. And I think she was mentioned in one of the publications, but I'm not sure which publication it was.
Very good. Good, thank you. Robin, what about it?
One student that comes to mind to me is we had a student back some years ago, like early in my career here, and his name was Marcel Simoe, and he played soccer for LMU. And Marcel was from West Africa, and he wanted to do a nursing degree, and he had a very heavy accent, and he also was very obviously from Africa. Okay. So when I started taking him to the hospital, we went to our first clinical was in a long-term care, the nursing home patients. And some of them have been there for many years, and they were very elderly. And I honestly was a little bit nervous because I thought, are they going to understand him? How are they going to, deal with a person who's very obviously different from what they're used to on an everyday basis? Here in this little tiny neck of the woods, we're so Appalachian. But it was so wonderful because the patients absolutely adored him. He was the kindest, sweetest little guy. And I mean, they would talk to him for hours, and he just responded just like they were a family member. And he stayed with us and did his ASN and his RN-BSN with us. And then he did his FNP degree with us. And eventually I think he finished a doctorate maybe at the University of Kentucky. And so all of those years, he stuck out with us and did degrees with us and was the kindest, wonderful student. And the patients all loved him so much. And back in the day, he was a soccer player. So like over holidays, I would take him to the hospital like on Thanksgiving, and we would spend days together over the holidays trying to catch his clinicals up because we had such a good soccer team that he would have to miss clinicals, to be able to go to soccer matches. So I would take him to OB clinicals at Morristown and at Lakeway when it was still open, and we would do, extra OB clinical days. And he was so kind. He never fussed about it. He just wanted to be a nurse, whatever it took, because he talked about in his country, like doctors often in his country did not have as high a level of education as what FNPs in this country do, so he was so proud to be able to have that degree from LMU and now has a doctorate.
It's a great story. We have quite a few international students here at LMU, and a lot of folks don't realize that, but we do have a large number, and it has a lot to do with where we're located. It's a safe place, and they're looking to come out here, and a lot of our athletes can run up here in these mountains, and it's a great place. It's a great place for international students to be. Dr. Hess, do you happen to have I skipped over Cindy. I'm sorry, Cindy. You have a student story you want to mention?
Oh, I've got, I don't know. I've been here a few years, so I've kind of got several, but just in knowing friends that I've kept with through the years. One in particular, Joyce Cope-White is on with us today. You can say, hi, Joyce. You can see her. Joyce's father was the first president of the Alumni Association, I think. So I've known Joyce and her family and her sister and everybody for years. But Joyce, I know, was an exceptional student, has been in the alumni world too. And she's written books, and they're in Spanish. And she's been a missionary and a teacher, a faculty member. And she's just an exceptional person, a wonderful light to so many of our international folks in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I just want to say something about Joyce, and she was an exceptional student from LMU and what she's meant to us, through the years. And another Freddie Hendricks, who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame virtually this weekend. And Freddie has gone on to do some amazing things in the world of theater. He was in every play here at LMU when we were students. And Freddie is now the theater director for a group in Atlanta that deals with kids. A lot of his kids go from his classes to Nickelodeon. So he's been very successful in his career and was a great student and a great friend. Mike Shannon, another one in the 70s that I graduated with. Mike is going on. He's a pastor in a hospice program in North Carolina. But Mike, again, was another theater person that I knew, but just some great people over the years. And I'm so prejudiced to speak to this last one. And this was because she's my niece, Allison Cook Barton, and she was one of the first graduates in the DCOM program here at the university, and now is an OB/GYN specialist in London, Kentucky. She had 2 little boys going through medical school. I don't know how she did that, but anyway, she's a great girl, a great family, and so those are just 4 people, but there's so many who've been great students who've gone on to do so many wonderful things because of the opportunity that LMU gave them for an education. Thanks.
That's very good, Cindy. Thank you. We could probably have a whole series of programs just talking about students. There's so many out there, as you know, and I just sent the list off to Ncaa and Kate about students and where they've gone. I must have had 30 students on there. I didn't realize how many have gone on so many good places beyond LMU and stayed at LMU. Dr. Hess, do you have a particular student in mind that you'd like that you recall? I know you don't want to be biased about any particular student because you love them all, but still, you may have 1 or 2.
I would want to be careful because there are so many that have done such remarkable things. But I will comment on going back to some of the people that I went to school with that were just outstanding students. I remember being so intimidated by how intelligent some of my classmates were that have gone on and have done some absolutely remarkable things. I remember being in a residence hall one night, and my roommate was Terry Slusher, who I mentioned some earlier, that went on to be an attorney. But we were reading a book in the class, I believe it was Clan of the Cave Bears or something. It was a long book. Terry read that book in one evening, and I was so intimidated because I had been working on it for about a month. And so I remember that. I remember a student named Robert Estep, who's a local judge here now. And I remember wanting to borrow Robert's notes, although I had been in class. His were so much better. And some of the people then that I looked up to and respected. And since then, there have just been so many that have gone through here that I've had the opportunity to get to know, and often just to be amazed at what talents there are among the students that come here and how they develop those, and just to watch them grow and to see that natural ability turn into such wonderful skills that they display later. But I'll leave it at that so as not to name too many.
Very good. Natalie, I don't see any, thank you, Dr. Hess. Natalie, I don't see any other chats come up. So let me pose this last question. I think it'll be interest to all of us, and it has to do with buildings on campus. If you can share something about one of the buildings or more on campus. This campus has grown significantly, but there are some buildings that are still here that have been here a long, long time. And so I want to pose that question, a question about buildings. I think all of us will be able to relate to. And we'll start. Dr. Hess, what about buildings on campus? What would you say about that?
Well, there are some that have been around for a long time. I do remember as a student going into the Carnegie Library, which was much smaller at the time than it is now. But I don't know how many of you know this, but there's actually some basement restrooms in that facility. And I remember having gone down those stairs and the lights having gone out and trying to find my way back up from the basement of the library at Carnegie. That was quite an experience. And then we had two wonderful ladies who worked there, Miss Byers and Miss Graves, who were the librarians in those days. I'm sure some of you would have familiarity with them, but they could hear me trying to make my way back out of there in the dark.
And Cindy, you were in Kresge for a lot of years, and before that, I think Dar building. What would a good story be about buildings that you probably have?
Oh, mercy. Kresge. We had lots of fun times in Kresge, especially with that winding staircase. If you've ever been in Kresge Hall in the old days, it's much better now, but it had that winding staircase that you could always slide down if you chose to do that. But I think there are so many buildings here that are so exceptional and state-of-the-art facilities for our students. It's just amazing. In our medical and all these buildings, math and science, students have so many opportunities. I mean, down in the Gap, with the arts building down there, that's fabulous. But as for me as a student, of course, it was Duke Hall and the Duke Hall of Citizenship, mostly because we did all of our, theater and dance and all of that in Duke Hall. So we had some great times there. But I could tell lots of stories. We need to do another one sometime. But Duke Hall was one of my favorites.
What was your major, Cindy?
I was a psychology major and a minor in music. But when I graduated, I had more credits in the music field than I did in my major. Yeah.
Very interesting. Robin, what about it?
Well, back in the 70s when I was on campus, we lived from Middlesboro, but I lived on campus a little bit just because I wanted to have that, college experience. And there used to be a set of trailers that was way back on the other side of campus behind where J. Frank White is now, and they were called the Modulars. And I lived there. Regina Burns lived there. The older upperclassmen were allowed to live in this little set of trailers, right? And what was funny was it was the big winter. If anybody remember, there was a weather lady from Knoxville named Margie Allison, and they always would talk about Margie said it would. That was her catchphrase. And every weekend it poured the snow. And I was dating my husband at the time, and he would come over on Friday evenings, and our power would be out because it had snowed so much, and there would be so much snow pushed up against the door where it would drift up against the door of my little modular room that he would have to take a shovel and dig me out, so we always had a big jokes about living in the modulars, and it was kind of like being in Alaska that winter because it poured the snow. You had to walk all the way across campus, to go to eat and that kind of thing. But we thought we were the big dogs, because we got to live over there in those little modular trailers all the way across campus. We didn't have to live, in east or west, dorms. We got to live in the modulars. We thought it was the big thing.
Great memory. Dr. Parrish, you have a quick story because we're getting toward the end here. You can hear you.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, the thing that amazes me is that this is actually my third time moving back into Avery Hall. I've been on third floor twice, maybe 3 times, I'm not sure. And I've been on second floor and and on first floor. So I've had every floor and just 3 times back to this building from some of the others.
Well, you're just an attractive program and person to be back.
That's what it is, yeah.
When I first came here, education was upstairs. Dr. Noah was the director of education, and there was a whole half the floor was all of her administrative assistants, and Sue England was up there, and a couple of others. And it was just, I used to be afraid of her, really. She was very demanding. And, I was kind of one of these people from the North that was always joking around. And when I came into her office, I had to stand straight, and she kind of scared me a little bit. But she's a nice lady, real nice lady, very smart. I tell you, new education up and down. She really did. So, well, let me ask anybody else have anything input? Because I think Natalie, I think we're beyond our time and probably shouldn't go any further, but any of the panelists?
I just like to make a comment.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Henry Vians, and this is my little LMU corner, LMU Northeast up in Boston. And I got a couple of quick stories to relate to you. One of them, I'm going to bore Sheila Cosby again, but you're going to hear it anyway. I'm a 75 graduate of LMU. Cindy Witt knows who I am. And my experience with LMU, little boy from Bristol, Rhode Island, you may ask, well, how did you get down to LMU? Well, the Greyhound bus, of course. Actually, my father put me on a plane in New York City, and with instructions from my mother as to what to do. Take a taxi from the airport. This is a good story. I don't want to bore you, but take the taxi from the airport to the Holiday Inn, check in, have dinner, go to sleep, wake up, have breakfast, and then check out and go to the Greyhound bus station and take the bus to Harrogate, Tennessee. Wow, what an adventure. And my mother and father said, well, if it doesn't work out, don't worry about it. I never looked back, and I never regretted it, and I never came back except for Christmas to go back to little Bristol, Rhode Island. But anyway, I've got so many good stories, but there were 2 people while I was at LMU that really impacted me and impressed me the most. And one of them was the late Frank Welsh, as you know. And the other one was my friend and past president, Gary Pritchett. These 2 guys, as you know, the history of the school, it almost went off the cliff on 3 occasions. And on the 3rd occasion, I was there. It was the winter of 1973. The enrollment was way, way down. And, I was a sophomore at the time, and President Lipsey had just passed. And so, we got through the winter and the spring, and I went back to Bristol and Rhode Island for the summer, came back in the fall of 73. I was going into my junior year, and met President Welsh. There was a big gathering. He was having a barbecue for all these students coming back. And he was very welcoming, very, very welcoming. This man was. Hadn't known a lot of people from Rhode Island. Who knows? But he was extremely welcoming. But I would say him and Gary Burchett were absolutely instrumental in changing Lincoln Memorial University, not on a slow, gradual level. It was immediate. And, you know, unlike Washington, D.C., our wonderful politicians talk about change. Well, it comes, but it may take years or decades, okay? These two gentlemen literally transformed it overnight.
Seems like that
and we
movie's out of
felt
3.
it. What's that? Excuse me, Cynthia? I'm sorry.
It's your background noise. Yeah.
Yeah, these two gentlemen I was very impressed with. And, you know, they had youthfulness. I think Frank Welsh was 34 at the time. Gary wasn't, you know, much older than that. And I'll never forget one time, Gary Burchett coming up to Grant Lee with myself and a bunch of my Alpha fraternity brothers sitting down with us in one of the dorm rooms up there. There's maybe 6 or 7 of us. We were drinking some beer. We did that occasionally at LMU. And we said, would you like one? He said, sure, give me one. And he looked at us and he said to us, I will never forget this as long as I live. He said, fellas, what can we do to serve you, to make the school better? Well, we all fell off our chairs. We couldn't believe that he was wanting all the input from the students, where traditionally it kind of been the other way around. The administration had made a decision, and that's the way it was. And he was so impactful on that comment. And we all looked at one another and said, you know, we've got 2 winners here with Frank Welsh and Gary Burchett. So I applaud both of them. And again, I attribute much of their success along with Dr. Hess. We don't want to forget him. Okay. He's just continuing the carrying of the torch and the previous presidents before him. So that's my story. No, it's a little unusual. You don't get a lot of people from Rhode Island or, you know, the Boston area. I do get down there quite frequently. My best and oldest friends are East Tennesseans. And I do go down in August every year for a gathering, as they say in East Tennessee, out the lake. And we hoop and holler and have grand old time. But it was nothing but 4 pleasurable years that I enjoyed so immensely and made my mother and father so happy that I was a graduate of Lincoln Memorial University. And it's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. That's a great story. And I know we all...
Let me just comment. Dr. Welch was president when I came as well, and Gary Burchett shortly after that. 2 wonderful people. And Gary continues to help the university tremendously. He is on our board of trustees now and has done so much to help me in the position. And you're exactly right. We all benefit as we come into these roles at LMU from those who really laid the foundation for us. And the work that they did probably saved this university. It was a tremendous undertaking. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Great story. I guess we've
My pleasure.
We've got down to the short rows here. Unfortunately, we need to really have 2 hours instead of 1. But there are other events, as Sheila would probably say. Am I right, Sheila? There's probably other events that we need to conspire toward or move towards. So thank you, panelists, Dr. Clayton Hess, Cindy Witt, Robin, Kay. Thank you for your time. It's been wonderful. I think we recorded this for posterity purposes, and but we'll eliminate all the names. We'll redact it. Is that what they call it? Redact it. Redact the names. Everybody have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of homecoming. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank everybody. Thank you, Dr. Sellers, Dr. Hess, Cindy, Robin, Kay. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.